I choose to heal.
I choose to heal.
I choose to heal
as an expression of love to myself, my community, this earth, and those who I'm descended from.
Because holding on to my past traumas and holding on to bad things that people did to me was not leading to a happy life at all.
Why wouldn't I want to be healed? Why do I want to sit around stressed? Why do I want to sit around with weight on my shoulders? I want to be free. I want to feel liberated. I want to be able to accomplish things that my heart desires.
Because my driving force is happiness, and I want to be and speak and live in a place of love and light versus a place of anger and resentment.
Welcome to the Healers Break to Heal series, where we discuss the many ways we choose to heal, spreading high vibrational living and awareness internationally to create a collective divine energy that heals our universe. We believe in embracing our spiritual awakenings to identify our personal power and authentic selves. This series can be found on multiple platforms such as Lena Mystic YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. To learn more, you can visit lenamysticoracle.com. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello, mystical light beings, and welcome to Healers Break to Heal, Season 1. Today we have Johanna on. Johanna, can you share with us who you are, what your role is in this world?
Hey there, hey everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. This is a really, really fun opportunity. My name is Johanna Wright, and I'm an author, illustrator living in Portland, Oregon. And I have authored and illustrated over 15 children's books over the years. But more recently, I've been working on some more self-growth tools and illustrated self-growth tools like The Magic of Mindset, which is back here. It's an illustrated journal that I've created that's guided to help people get unstuck. So I really feel like that it just feels like it's kind of combined my interests in a really beautiful way, where it's taken my passions for illustration and creativity and combined it with energy work and created these tools that I just feel really called to share and really happy to be able to share.
Yeah, it is absolutely a beautiful journal. When it was gifted to me on Christmas, the light inside of me just lit up, and I was amazed at how beautiful the artwork was, the illustration was, and even the writing and the questions that you asked. So what basically triggered you to write that book or to start your spiritual awakening?
Yeah, that's a really cool question. Let's think. I feel like it's been kind of a long path for me. I feel like, for anyone, I think like having those consciousness shifts, it's sort of like these little tiny steps up a mountain. But for me, I had some bigger experiences too that kind of pushed me in this direction. And I'd say the most recent one was like about 7 or 8 years ago. I was going through kind of a tough time. I had a newborn and a 3-year-old and really intense chronic anxiety that was leading to some health problems. And my mom had just developed Alzheimer's. So all those things kind of had happened at once, and it was really a difficult time for me. So the anxiety was really the push, I think, that I needed to start looking in other directions for ways to heal myself and get myself back to myself, because I just felt really lost at that time.
Yeah. So do you feel like you ever got back to yourself, or you developed as a new person?
That's a great question. Definitely a new person. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's taken me, I don't even know how to describe this sometimes, but I feel like anyone that it's going through this process or growing, they know what I mean, where it's like you're discovering a whole new person, really. Someone that, and a whole new way of being and feeling that is, for me, I hadn't really felt that before. I don't have memory of feeling that way.
Yeah, so that must have been your first spiritual awakening. Normally, what happens in that triggers a spiritual awakening is chaos. And it's like, oh my God, I'm not as stable inside as I thought I was. But it's not that you weren't. It's just that in this moment, you're not, because you have to acclimate to your new lifestyle, your new life. So that's beautiful. I know children can really trigger spiritual awakenings because you have to be stable enough to take care of a child. So how do you think parenthood contributed to your enlightened self or your new self?
Absolutely. I feel like they're a huge motivator all the time because I really want to be the best for them. As a parent, as a mom, I really want to be that place for them where they can feel love and feel love for themselves. And so that's just taken a lot of undoing and unlearning for myself, really.
Yeah. Wow. So I know you discussed your children books. I've seen a couple of them, but I haven't seen that many of them. I didn't even know you had that many. Congratulations. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
But how did that contribute to your growth as well? Because it's really a talent to be able to speak to children and understand children. So how do children contribute to your purpose, do you think?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's been something that I've just always wanted to do. I've always really connected with kids and that part of myself that's pretty playful and imaginative. I feel like for anyone that's sensitive to energy or sensitive in the world, I think that the world can be kind of difficult for children in that way. So I really identified with that as a kid and kind of created this other space for myself that was very imaginative, almost like just another world where I would sort of pop out and spend a lot of time there. And I think that really helped me kind of stay in that space of being connected with imagination and creativity, and that's where kids exist, I feel like. So it's a really natural combo.
Yeah, I do think, are you familiar with empaths?
Mm-hmm.
So I do think empaths work very well with children and animals because they understand the purity in them. They're still connected to the purity inside themselves as well. And I want to know, as an empath, are there any spiritual principles you live by or quotes that you may live by in your daily life?
Yeah, let's see. That's a really cool question. For me, in more recent days, I feel like I've kind of go through phases with those through my whole life. About the last 25 years, I feel like I've been kind of building a lot of this. And but the one the most recent one is just like a willingness to feel. Because I think as empaths or sensitive people, it can be really hard to stay in our body and really stay with those feelings. Sometimes they can be really overwhelming, especially if you're picking up energies from other people or your environment. Maybe as a kid, you kind of learn to pop out of your body a little bit so you wouldn't have to experience the intensity. So for me, a willingness to feel is just kind of a mantra that I use when I'm scared. And the phrase that I like to think of in my head is I am willing to feel any emotion. So when I'm scared to go into something new, I just kind of offer that to myself, because really the worst that's going to happen is I'm going to feel something and I have the power to feel it. And that is really empowering to me. And it's helped me a lot with anxiety.
Yeah, I like that principle, willing to feel. That's really powerful because I think a lot of empaths are shut down because they're considered too sensitive, especially in childhood. It's you're too sensitive or being dramatic. So in those younger years, you start to develop yourself into someone who is not able to feel, who's not able to process your feelings and stuff. So that's a powerful way of looking at things. Be willing to feel. Otherwise, you're not really experiencing anything because life is literally about feeling. Wow, I love that. Okay, so are there any spiritual practices, like the practices you do daily?
Yeah, I love spiritual practices, and I have so many actually right now that I'm working on. An oracle deck that has it's called Creative Consciousness Healing, and each card is a practice, and it's kind of just something that I've made for myself because a way to organize all these wonderful tools that I like to use and that I've kind of gathered over the years from so many people and sources. But the ones that I feel like I have to do every day are grounding and energy clearing. And those are just a visualization. Usually I kind of get into my body, I picture myself grounding, I picture an energy clearing. Those are, it's like an energy hygiene thing that I also teach my kids. I feel like it's a good thing to do, same as brushing your teeth, just ground and energy clear every day. And then a new thing that I've been trying lately that's kind of a combination of those things is that I'm really enjoying this visualization. I don't know if it'll resonate with you or anybody out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I if I'm kind of feeling a difficult thing in my body or a feeling that is repetitive, maybe an old pattern that I'm working on releasing. I like to sort of combine the grounding and the energy clearing with like an energy composting, where I kind of imagine the feeling, the pattern breaking down with mushrooms and worms and dirt and just kind of turning into new soil. So that's been really powerful for me lately.
Wow, that's honestly really artistic. It's a very artistic way of seeing things, and it's almost a way of accepting that energy is recyclable and it can be turned into something else. Like it can be changed, and yeah, that's amazing. Wow, I've never thought about that, but I'm definitely gonna try it.
Cool. Yeah, I hope you do it.
Like how does art play a huge role in your spiritual journey or your day-to-day life?
It's been like such a big part of it, I think, because art's always, I've been a working artist for 25 years. I started selling my art on the street in New York. I did that for about 4 years in my early 20s. So that's kind of where I got my start, and it's just always been a part of my life. So it's definitely a bridge for me between the spiritual and the physical. And kind of later in life, I was mentioning earlier about kind of going through that hard time about 7 or 8 years ago. I had an experience that was, I've had a couple of just like big spontaneous experiences, spiritual experiences in my life. And that was one of them. I had an ocular migraine. I don't know if you've ever experienced those. They're
right behind your eyes.
I never had before. I didn't have any pain, but it was really scary because I lost my vision for a few minutes. And instead of seeing what I would normally see, I saw rainbows, which is really common in with an ocular migraine, but I didn't know that. But after that experience, I started kind of seeing energy and feeling energy in the same way that I do see a painting.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've had ocular migraines before. I have terrible migraines constantly because I have a chronic illness. So when I have those ocular migraines, I see bubbles or like I see colors. And so when you say rainbows, I'm like, I can totally relate. And losing the vision and everything, it's almost like your imagination is put into play.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like continue. I want to hear the rest of what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly it. After that experience, yeah, I just started being able to connect the similarities between what I feel when I'm making an illustration or a painting, and being able to feel and sense energy in people's bodies or animals. It's very much the same part of my being. Where I make art is where I also experience the energetic world. So it's so simple to look back and see that now. It's taken me a long time to understand that and learn about it, but that's how I understand it now, which feels good.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And that's another way that I can tell you're so artistic, because artists have a way of turning something that could be terrible to someone else into magic, like literally into magic, into beauty. And that's absolutely amazing. I even love the title of your book, Magic of Mindset, because your mindset is very powerful and it is magic. People don't think of it as magic, but it is magic. And I also wanted to discuss, what led you to write your book, and then we'll discuss some other stuff after that.
Yeah. Really, it was just like a kind of a lifetime, but particularly that period of my life of compiling all these tools, really having the information that I needed to start my self-healing, and feeling that intuitive push to start illustrating, start using my art to help myself integrate some of these practices. Just because I'm really visual, I really respond well to creativity. And so it was really initially a tool for myself, just a way to practice some of these things. And leading up to the publishing of it was just really beautiful. And I feel really, really grateful that I get to share them with others. It's been really special to get feedback from others about their experience with it too.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because a lot of spiritual things start off for yourself, but then you realize you have this magical power now, and you're like, oh wow, I figured out a way to do this. Maybe someone else needs this. How did you know that you were stuck? What were signs that you were feeling?
Yeah, that's a really good question. For me, I experience stuckness. I mean, I think we all do all the time. I think we
all the time.
various, every day I've got
I just had it.
varying levels
I
of it.
literally just had it.
But for me at that time, and it feels like a few things. It can feel like frustration, resistance, like kind of knowing where you want to go, but having the gas and the brake on at the same time. Like that's what feeling stuck feels like to me. I feel a lot in my body. I have a lot of, I feel a lot in my stomach. My stomach takes a lot for me. So just kind of like a knotted feeling in there. It's a lot of like patterns that I'm so tired of, that behaviors, thoughts, addictive thoughts, behaviors, all that stuff. So that's just where it shows up for me.
Yeah, I think even anxiety is a huge sign that someone is feeling stuck. Because your body is even responding to your mental stuckness, and it's saying, we can't get out of here.
Yeah.
So I know you said you've experienced anxiety, and I think everyone in the world has, even children.
Yeah.
What do you think helps through that? What do you think can help? Of course, your book is amazing. It helped me. I was feeling stuck recently, and I was like, I have to get her on here because your book is amazing. It is absolutely beautiful. And the artwork, simply the art, if that was just an artwork journal, it would even help me feel unstuck.
Oh, I love that.
So I can tell how much energy you put into that. But what do you do in those moments your anxiety has taken over? And what does that even look like when you experience anxiety?
Oh man, well, I think for everyone that's probably a little different. For me, it's very physical. I feel really sick to my stomach and shaky and just concerned. So anxiety feels physically not great to me. It also feels kind of mean, like my brain is being mean to me. And so for me, the things that help me the most with getting unstuck or with anxiety are just some really deep compassion. And probably my favorite exercise for that in the Magic of Mindset is something that I use with my kids all the time too. And it's, I'm trying to remember the wording of it, but it's basically, imagine that the stuck part of yourself or the anxious part of yourself is like a magical creature, any kind of animal that you feel connected to, and it's stuck in the mud. And just imagine what you would do for that animal if it was stuck in the mud. Like, how would you treat it and how would you help it? And just like feel all of the love and compassion that you would feel for it. And just try to offer that back to yourself, because sometimes I feel like for a lot of us, it's really hard to like conceptualize being kind to ourselves, but it's easier for a lot of folks to be able to put that towards an animal. And if you can kind of think of yourself as an animal.
Yeah, I love that, because it allows you to have empathy. Like, immediately you're going to have empathy and sympathy for that animal. But each of us, that's a representation of how we see ourselves as well. And we need to give ourselves that same compassion back. And I think when our ego just, is shining at that time, we cannot get out of an ego mindset, which is telling us we're not good enough, we can't handle things ourselves, that we shouldn't ask for help because we're not deserving or worthy of it. And I really think when we feel stuck, it's our ego. It has to be, because our spirit is free. Our spirit is following divine intervention, but our ego is just stuck in its own mindset, in its own ways. And how do you think an ego plays a role in people's lives? Like, how your ego is showing up?
Yeah, I feel like for a long time, it was really hard for me to wrap my mind around like what ego meant or shadow work. Like I just didn't totally
grasp it.
Yeah, grasp it. And I feel like now I feel like I've got kind of a better picture of it. And it really, for me, it's just all these different parts of myself. And some of them are really unpleasant. Like I really don't want them to be hanging around. And so I think a lot of my anxiety and depression and frustration and stuckness is me just like trying to like push them away and push them down or push them out. So when things shift for me there, it's really just a matter of like hearing what they have to say, sometimes kind of getting down to the root of why they're saying that, and offering compassion. I can't always offer compassion. Sometimes I just offer like a loving boundary, but kind of being the leader of all of these cast of characters, kind of is how I experience them, has helped me a lot in separating from their messages, which can often be really not great for my mental health.
Yeah, I agree. Wow. You're just a very enlightening individual. Like, I'm trying to take it all in. The amount of experience, I can tell you've had a lot of experience with facing yourself. Just writing that book, The Magic of Mindset, really makes people take accountability of what their mind is experiencing. And I do want to know, do you think that, anxiety or depression is kind of an enlightening moment where you're realizing like that physical, it is mental still, but like you have physical examples of when you're shutting down? Do you think that that's like the last step where it's like, okay, we can't take this anymore, so we got to send signals to your body? Have you ever experienced anything where your mental manifested physically?
Yes, for sure. So I have, and I think for me that has experienced, or I've experienced that the most, as some pretty intense gut and GI issues. And so about like 7 or 8 years ago, when I had really chronic anxiety, I was like sleeping in the bathroom every night. I was so nauseous, just like couldn't really function. And I think that for me, it was just a lifetime of storing all of that, all those
Yes. And you know that's your sacral chakra.
Yeah.
That's where you store that energy. Wow.
And my solar plexus too, like my power center. And that's like, just I couldn't really go on. I had to face it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. So I can relate to that. I have IBS. Mm-hmm. So I feel like over the years, and it started really, really young. Over the years, when I first started talking about the trauma I was experiencing, I started to get sick all the time. And I think like throughout the years, the more stress is literally placed in my sacral and my solar plexus, of course, and even my root chakra. Yeah. And you start to see it manifest into chronic back pain, chronic anxiety, IBS, or IBD, or situations like where it's in your gut or your back and whatever. It's like you can't really carry on. And you're thinking, oh, it must be something outer, but it really is inner, because the more stable you are inner, your body can regenerate itself. Have you ever practiced body regeneration or realized that, oh, this is not really as physical of a condition as I thought it was? It's mental as well.
Yeah, I sure have. And I really relate to what you're saying. And I think it is a really common, the more I'm learning, I feel like it is a really common place for especially really sensitive, empathic people to explore not just their own feelings, but sometimes other people's feelings. And so that that's been really eye-opening for me. I think for me, the thing that's helped me the most with healing that and the physical part can be really tricky, because you can think that you're doing well, and then you have a step back, so I think it is just like a constant, for me, it's just like a constant exercise in self-compassion. Like anytime I'm berating myself or trying to like
keep pushing too hard,
or like blame, or even that can even happen in the spiritual self-growth world, where, oh, I should be more aware of what's happening. Why am I sick again? Kind of, putting that blame there. I think releasing that and just like keep loving, like as if my stomach and my GI area is just all like a kid that I can love, or an animal, because that's how I really think of my stomach now. It's just like this little animal that needs a lot of care.
Love. Yeah, needs love. Wow. And compassion. That's like one of the best things that we can give ourselves, because we're so hard on ourselves. And I want to relate to what you were saying about feeling like, oh, I should be spiritually further along. I work with a lot of clients with intuitive practices, and I'm like, that's not doing anything for you thinking like that. It's making it worse. And now you can't even grow spiritually because you're focused on romanticizing where you should be. but you are where you are.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is accept that. Have you had a lot of moments where you're like, I should be further along? Like,
all the time. I feel like, for everyone that I know, life is just a spiral, and there's gonna be
highs and lows.
And like there's no arriving like at this amazing place. But I do think there's like this steady, you can have big moments of insight and integrate them, and I think that's definitely possible. But it's just a lot of like like steady climbs, I feel like, and sometimes life happens and things happen. I think developing that practice for me of just like always coming back to myself and treating myself as tenderly as possible, like that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I think I can relate to the big moments of insight, because I feel like when you first have that, it's like a high.
Yeah.
And you're like, I want to have it again. So you're like rushing yourself, but then you're stopping yourself at the same time. So that's just it's not efficient at all.
It's all like everyone gets what they need. I think those big moments can feel so good, and they can make a really big difference, and they really shift stuff. And I love having those, and I know what you mean. It feels really good. You kind of
feels so good. You're like, I did it. I figured it out. So you're trying to force another one sometimes. And it's like, you're taking too big of steps. Like I saw this meme, and I may be able to put it on the video, but it's like, there's these large steps, and this guy has gotten one large step, but he's like, how am I going to get up to that next large step? And then there's this one guy who's further along because he kept taking small steps. And it's like, it's okay to take small little steps, do small little tasks every day, especially when you have chronic illnesses such as anxiety and depression. When you have those, you really have to just do one little thing every day different that you wouldn't be doing. Because I know when I was depressed, it was so hard for me to like take care of myself, whether it was brushing my teeth, taking a shower, to go to school. Like I would just not go to school. And I would be like, I hope nobody finds out. Like, but you have to take it one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Like if you didn't brush your teeth yesterday, brush your teeth today. Yeah. And reward yourself for that.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. And it's something that I feel like it's taken me a long time in life to really learn how important those small things are, and how much that trust. I feel like I'm building that almost as a parent to myself, building that trust, like I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to brush your teeth. I'm going to give you healthy food, just those like, those little moments, like they build up, and they really add up.
Wow. I love the way you said, you're so poetic. Like the way you said a parent to yourself. I've never realized we do have to be parents to ourselves. We have to nurture we're the ones who are taking care of ourselves. So we do have to nurture ourselves. And I think that might be why it's so hard to step into adulthood and to step into parenthood, because we're like, oh my God, well, who's going to take care of me? Like, who's going to take care of me? I'm stuck. I don't know where to go here. That is a beautiful way of putting it, because it's simpler for us to understand something like that. Sometimes things are just too complicated, but realizing that you're the parent for yourself and even your inner child, it makes things so much easier for you to give more love to yourself, because you're seeing yourself as a reflection. You're seeing yourself outward instead of inward, and in kind of both ways. Yeah. So that is a beautiful way of putting it.
So, and on those days where you're like, if anyone is having like a really hard day, where they just feel like everything's too overwhelming, I think just doing one small thing with love, like give yourself a shower, and just like in the shower, just be, think about you being a parent, washing your hair to your sweet self. Like that can be really tender and really impactful.
Wow. That really just like took me back. It was have you seen Doctor Strange?
Yes.
So did you see where she like pushed his body out of his body and then came back? That was that moment for me. That was beautiful. Wow. I'm gonna be stuck on that probably for a couple of months. I'm gonna release this episode, have to watch it over and over again, because that was a very powerful way. And I don't know if everyone's gonna feel like that, but I definitely feel like that was a message that I was meant to receive, because just like I'm so compassionate to my son, I give him all this love, I give him 300 chances, and I listen to him. I have to give those same things to myself and honestly, the world. Like I have to give that to the world, but it definitely starts with me because I cannot give anything without giving to myself first. Wow.
Yeah.
That was enlightening. So I want to know also, because you seem like the type of person who practices affirmations. What are your favorite or your most consistent ones now? Like, what do you live by now?
That is a great question. I'm so visual that I tend to just like listen to music a lot that really feels good. I feel like that's sort of my way of doing affirmations, and I'll imagine things that make me feel however I'm hoping to kind of be uplifted. I think sometimes I've struggled with affirmations, especially when I was like having a really hard time with depression, or having my mind be just like so aggressive that it would immediately like push the affirmation away. Like, does that make sense? Like I would get so much resistance to them. So the thing that's helped me the most with affirmations and how I use them a lot this way now is like a tool that an energy worker named Ray Manicherry that I really love uses, and she uses what if questions because they really help the brain kind of absorb.
And that's how your book is too. Your book is definitely like that.
It just like what and I talk about the what if in the magic of mindset too. I kind of add that to the beginning of anything, so if it kind of helps my brain be curious and have a little bit less resistance. So something I might say would be like, well, what if I'm healed and healthy, or what if my stomach is feeling great today, or what if I don't know, just kind of whatever's going on in the day, I'll just like tack that on to the beginning, and or what if I can easily receive love.
So you're imagining, and that is a form of a meditation as well, or a mindfulness practice where you're imagining things the way that you want them to be. And I think on the latest video that I posted to my channel, it wouldn't be the latest now because this is a few months after, but I talk about how sometimes affirmations can be detrimental because you're not feeling what you're saying, and then you're starting to feel worse. So actually saying these affirmations when you are happy, saying I am happy, allows you to build that happiness in that experience. But when you do feel your most low, you can imagine your highs or what it would look like. And I never thought of what if, but I do think of, I'm going to imagine if things did work out, but I like the what if.
Oh, yeah. That's just another great way. I think anything that you can do, if it doesn't feel right, if you feel a lot of resistance, try another angle to kind of get in there, just to wiggle it a little bit, kind of depending on how resistant you're feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Wow. So this was absolutely beautiful and went even better than I thought it was going to be, which is why I think my guides led me to you. It's perfect timing. I did want you to share anything you want anybody to know, whether it be your social media, anything you have going on in like the summer months or whatever is happening.
I think probably the best place for folks to find me, I am on Instagram, but my website's really great. It's just my name, which is johannawright.com. And if you sign up for my newsletter on there, I'm always creating new things and offering new creative tools that I love to share with folks. And so I just you can see kind of a behind the scenes of the creation of this new Oracle deck. And I try to keep folks updated with that. And I will have like a handful of one-on-one sessions available in the next few months, and I'll put them up as well. So
wow. Well, congratulations on all of your success. I have truly enjoyed your book, which is why I keep bringing it up, The Magic of Mindset. It's in your background. It's absolutely beautiful. The artwork, everything about it. I loved it so much. And I'm so grateful to have had you on today. And I want to go ahead and say thank you to everyone who's been watching, and go ahead and follow Johanna Wright. Thank you guys, and see you in another episode.